The Bulldog was a science fiction supercar not penned by Bertone or indeed any Italian design house. And it didn't come from an Italian car manufacturer. This was Britain's, and specifically Aston Martin's, answer to Ferrari, Maserati and Lamborghini's increasingly wild 1970s supercars. And it had supercar speed, with a reputed top speed over 200 miles an hour from a 600 horsepower engine. So what happened to this amazing car, and when can we expect a new supercar from Aston? This is the Aston Martin Bulldog story. British Leyland wasn't the only car manufacturer to go bankrupt in 1975. Aston Martin was having trouble meeting US exhaust emission rules, which stopped US sales. With a depressed market for expensive gas-guzzling cars in the mid-1970s, Aston Martin went bust, to be rescued by North American and British investors. They pushed to update the Aston Martin line, launching the futuristic Lagonda reskin in 1976, V8 Vantage the following year, and the open-top Volante in 1978. The change in management also saw a change in the company's focus. Rather than Aston Martin fanboys, new customers would be young, married and affluent businessmen who could afford such a luxury vehicle. This meant Aston could start charging more for its cars, so long as they could release a quality product that justified the cost. But they still had strong competition from Italy, and they realised they needed to make a statement to keep their passenger cars selling. And so the DP K901 project was launched. There's a rumour the K901 was affectionately shortened to K9 after Doctor Who's robotic K9 that was popular at the time. The car would get its real name after the Scottish aviation Bulldog, which was flown by Aston Martin's managing director Alan Curtis. The name fit the British supercar that would see off the Italian competition. Bulldogs were owned by British icons such as Winston Churchill, and the British and American owners knew a little bit of British history plays well in the States when trying to sell expensive cars. Work began in 1977 under the helm of Chief Engineer Mike Loseby, but he would defect just a year later to work on DeLorean's fateful car. With no leader, the whole project was put on hold for a few months until project manager Keith Martin took over. The car would be designed at Aston's new engineering facility at Newport Pagnell. British drivers of course know Newport Pagnell for just one thing, the motorway service station named after it on the M1. But it's a charming market town that made an ideal home for this historic car company. The brief was to build the ultimate road-going supercar. Styling would be done by William Towns, who'd styled the straight-edged 1976 Lagonda. The car would use a tubular steel chassis with aluminium panels covering it to save weight. Like the DeLorean and the Countach, the Bulldog would have a pair of giant electro-hydraulic gull-wing doors based on the V8 Volante hood mechanism. Power would come from the 5.3 litre V8 used in other Astons at the time. But there would be two important changes. The first was turbocharging using twin units from Garrett. This was early days for turbos, but it was clear that they could offer a large amount of power. Aston's V8 was no slouch, so this created an engine with a power reputed to be between 600 and 700 horsepower. The second change was to mount the engine in the middle of the car for better weight distribution. Aston had been making large V8 front-engined two-door cars. Think of them like the Mustang's posh British cousin. But the Bulldog would move Aston's car design in a completely new direction. Rather than pop-up headlights like many cars of the time, the Bulldog's bonnet would actually lower to show the car's 5 middle-mounted headlights, done to give the headlamps more stability than on pop-up mounts. It's surprising that this middle headlight arrangement was considered when the Land Rover's headlights were moved outwards because lights in the middle were being outlawed back in the 1960s. The car itself was long, not quite Lagonda dimensions. That car was almost 5 metres. But coming in at 4.7 metres and almost 2 metres wide, it was going to be hard to park anywhere. The size was to allow the car to be low, just a little higher than the Countach at just over 1 metre. The wheels on the car were mammoth, two 25/50s on the front and three 45/35s on the rear. In case you didn't know, that number is the width of the tyre in millimetres, which means the rear tyres were over a foot wide. But like many cars released in the 1980s, the car only came with a space-saver spare wheel. The goal had always been to produce the fastest production car in the world. When the car was tested, it got to 192 miles an hour, and 60 appeared in just 5 seconds thanks to its low drag of just 0.34. Aston Martin always insisted it could go higher and suggested a speed as high as 237 miles an hour, but this was never officially tested. Inside, the steering wheel was on the wrong side, probably to help sell the car in the North American market. The dashboard used touch sensors and LEDs straight out of the Lagonda to make it state-of-the-art, as people of the time would probably have put it. The upmarket car would get leather seats and air conditioning. The car would be officially launched in March 1980. The company was keen to tell reporters they had plans to do a limited run of up to 25 cars, and they hoped it would help promote their existing car line. Aston Martin's management were trying different things, like the Bulldog, to try to make their company more profitable, and around this time there was speculation that they would take over the MG marque from British Leyland. But the recession and US exchange rates impacted Aston's sales around 1980, which meant there wasn't spare cash to build the Bulldog. Aston Martin was sold in 1981, and the new management weren't keen to produce this expensive car. They focused on improving its existing saloon cars to pay the bills and make the company profitable. Looking to do something with the one-off Bulldog prototype, in 1984 Aston sold the car to a Middle Eastern prince for the princely sum of £130,000. Over the years, the Bulldog has been shown at various events, including the Aston Martin Centenary celebration in 2013. It's clear the car has been customised a little throughout its life. It's now a two-tone metallic green and has received a light tan interior with tacky Premier footballer gold bits throughout. It's lost its fuel injection system, going back to 4 presumably inferior Weber carburetors. On a more practical level, the car now actually has door mirrors and a screen on the dashboard for the rear view camera, aiding the limited visibility out of the back window. The Bulldog was sold on to an American collector who eventually put it up for sale, in case you're interested in buying it. But since it's been undrivable since at least 2013, this would be a bit of a project car. Aston Martin has investigated making supercars in the intervening years. In 2000, the mid-engined V8 AM305 was mooted, but incoming CEO Dr. Ulrich Bez wasn't really keen on making it. He felt British cars should never be mid-engined. The car morphed into the front-engined 2005 V8 Vantage. After he retired in 2013, Aston launched the DP100. It looks stunning, but other than the one rolling prototype, this car only ever existed in Gran Turismo on the PlayStation, which is why it was originally designed. DP stands for Design Prototype and was developed purely to help promote Aston Martin and never as a serious road-going car, which is a shame as it's beautiful. In 2016, Aston Martin proudly announced its next production supercar, the AM RB001. RB here stood for Red Bull, the energy drink cum Formula One team that by then had a deep collaboration with Aston Martin. The car would be partially developed by Adrian Newey, the kart and Formula One designer whose cars had won many championships. The team decided the car would use a 6.5 litre V12 engine, producing over 1,000 horsepower, with a hybrid battery system to harvest brake energy to give up to 160 extra horses. The car has a supposed insane 0 to 60 time of just 2.6 seconds. The track car is expected to have a top speed of 250 miles an hour. Formula One downforce knowledge has been used to create a car with a massive 1,800 kilograms of downforce. In 2017, the car was officially named as the Aston Martin Valkyrie, with an expected 2020 debut. One of the 150 produced could be yours for just £2.5 million. or one of the 25 Pro versions for only £7.2 million. One thing I found out while making this video was that Adrian Newey was expelled from his secondary school at the age of 16. The school had allowed the sixth formers to organise a pop concert at the end of term. Newey went to the historic Repton School in Derbyshire, and the concert was held in an 11th century hall. When the sound mixer went on a break, Adrian cranked the volume up to the max, damaging the priceless stained glass windows just as the headmaster walked in. A big thank you to all my patrons for supporting me as always. To get early advert-free access to new videos or to appear in the credits, please consider supporting me using the Patreon link below from just $1 or 80p a month, and hit that subscribe button to get notified of new videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.